Miners reportedly attacked the village, which is home to the Waiapi people. Brazil's indigenous people have long faced threats from miners, ranchers and loggers, but these threats have worsened under President Jair Bolsonaro, who's called restrictions on mining in the Amazon absurd. For more on that, our international affairs editor Philip Turl is here with me. And Philip, this is a very remote area. Tell us a bit more about where all this happened.
Well, this is right up in the northeastern part of Brazil. Now, here's a map for you just to show you where it is. It's in Amapa district, which is almost close to the border with French Guiana, and right in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, where last week an indigenous leader, 68-year-old Emira Wajapi, was murdered. He was stabbed to death, and then his body was found in a river. This is an extremely rare occurrence in Brazil, that indigenous leaders are attacked or any kind of violence takes place in villages. This is Waituto village, which is in Wajapi province. And since then, that has unleashed groups of rebel miners who are now trying to overtake the village in a bid to start mining precious resources there. Of course, up until just recently, all of these areas have been protected by the constitution in Brazil, which means that they can't be exploited and the indigenous populations can't be kicked out. But that now, following the election of Jair Bolsonaro, appears to be changing somewhat, and that means that these rebel groups feel that with what the president has been saying recently, they have more buoyancy in what they would like to do, and they're being given a reason and being supported by a government in moving into these areas to try to exploit the mineral resources there.
So it is then closely linked to Bolsonaro's policy to step up mineral exploitation.
Well, the president hasn't actually said this, but the president has been accused of turning a blind eye to these rebel groups. He has said, though, that he thinks that these mineral resources, I'll give you some of those, gold, manganese, iron and copper, which are very rich in these areas, are being underexploited, and therefore he would like what he terms the first world to come in and help exploit those resources, namely the United States, because he feels that the country could benefit largely from them. The only problem is that this is in the Amazon rainforest, and the Amazon rainforest is a protected area, and therefore there's a lot of reluctance to go in and to destroy more forest land to take advantage of these resources. Now, there is a conflict of interest going on between the president on the one side and indigenous protection groups and environmental protection groups in Brazil. The president has dismissed reports about the extent of deforestation in his country. This is latest reports come out from a government agency saying that the equivalent of 3 football stadiums worth of grass is disappearing every minute in Brazil, much more than was happening just over a year ago, and that the alarm bells really need to be rung. And on top of that, there is fear amongst the indigenous populations themselves that this 30-year protection they have is sort of being whittled down, and they're trying to protect their villages. And many people are saying this could lead to widespread bloodshed between rebel groups and indigenous populations who are fighting out for the indigenous populations to protect their villages, and the rebel groups to try to exploit the mineral resources which are there.
Philip, thanks very much indeed. Philip Turl there.